servers with random tradable loot. What is it that you don't like about it? I just got done making a video about the Mischief rule set being the future of all progression servers, or at least we would see one every few years or every few rotations where it's got the random tradable loot, because there's a lot of good to it. So in some of the comments that were left on that, people were saying that, well, they don't mind the random loot or even tradable loot. What they did have a problem with was the loot pinatas, or how much loot was dropping. And I kind of understand where they're coming from, because when I was gearing up my box characters, sometimes I've run between 12 to 16 characters. Augs are just like terrible to buy through the bazaar. It just costs so much money when you have so many freaking characters. So what I would have to do after Eldon was actually boxable by me, those big 54-man raids, when those became boxable, I would run those. But all the Augs in there are almost lore, so when you kill the final boss in some of these raids, in the Eldon raids, you got like, it seems like 15 to 20 Augs dropping, and you kind of got to sort them out instead of just looting them all. So actually distributing some of the loot sometimes would take a significant amount of time at the end, and then I could never really keep track. And the reason is not just because I'm solo boxing, although it does make the problem worse when you're just boxing your own stuff and you get all the loot and there's no one needing or wants some of the things. But the problem really is that there's so much loot that I'm not really sure why I'm even doing the Eldon raid or what for. I'm just kind of crossing my fingers and hoping the Aug I need drops, which I don't even know what they are. I just went and did them. That I knew Augs were going to drop. I knew they dropped in mass. And so for the first time really seeing the Augs drop, I've had them before. I had them on live. We rarely did the Eldon raids on live though, because they're such a pain in the ass. There's so much trash to clear. So not really used to seeing them. And I kind of see like 15 to 20 drop the first time I did one, and I kind of have to sort through them and figure out which ones I want in my main characters, which ones I'm going to pass to some of the alts and the box characters. And it got to a point where it's like, it's too much. And it's because it came too fast. So it wasn't like, when you gear up in the old days, you would actually be like, oh, well, I need this Aug and it comes from this Eldon raid, and I'm going to keep doing it until I get that. There was none of that in the random loot servers. The gear is like so easily accessible, and there's so much of it that, like someone said in the post, they didn't even do any of the Ikens raids because you can pretty much buy it for really cheap during every single expansion. And I'll just give you some examples, but these aren't all of them. Planes of Power had that shade in the Plane of Nightmare. Do it once a week or whatever the cooldown was on the DZ. Had access to get into the Plane of Time Phase 4, I think, Pinata. So some of the best in-slot items in-game that were tradable and buyable were really cheap on the bazaar. And then also Planes of Power, there's a lot of small mans and a lot of guilds farming the minis, because those also had Phase 4 Plane of Time loot, and you get a bunch of chances on the DZs. So like every time the DZ pops, you find us doing those raids. Now the random loot was actually kind of skewed in that way, and that's something I never really liked, is that you can random loot into a table higher than the stuff you're farming. I could see that even if there was a massive quantity of gear like there is, that if you kill the Plane of Fire mini, you would get something that's equivalent to like, the Plane of Earth minis or other comparable mobs on the same level. Maybe a pinata into, like Fen and Row type loot, or Ornav, or maybe that you can get into like the boss table very occasionally, like a small chance. I think that'd be cool, but to have the Plane of Fire minis, which normally drop like what, 135 HP gear, if that, 160, have them into the Phase 4 Plane of Time best in slot loot, where I think on some raids before they actually did a small nerf on the pinata, I mean, we would do some Plane of Fire mini raids and we end up with 3 Dark Blades of Warlord. That's kind of insane. And so I thought that they really messed up that aspect of it. So I can definitely sympathize with the people saying that it wasn't the random loot or tradable loot that made the issue. It was the fact that we had access to all these loot tables, and then the best type of gear was so readily available that there was actually no need to do some of the content. Take Gates of Discord, for example. The primals, all of them, especially when you can buy the best in slot gear, easily one groupable. Even that nasty ass spider, which I fucking hate, on DZs. So you're not fighting with other people. Everybody can do it once a week with just 6 characters, some probably with less. They had access into Ikens 1 through 4 raid gear and some of Aqua, or maybe all of Aqua, I don't know. So who's going to do Ikens 1 through 4 when you just farm these primals? And everybody's farming these primals because that's what all the small mans and box groups are doing. And so they put that gear on the bazaar. There's no longer a need to even go to like Ikens 1 through 4 or Aqua unless you need flags. You don't have to do it anymore. And then they had Omens of War. You could get the Globe of Discord and Energy for your Epic 2.0 outside of Anguish. There's like a Psychophant event in one of the zones off of Dranic Scar, and if you did that right, you could get like the Tenants of Light, the Guardians of the Beacon. I think you could, if you played that right, you could get a chance at a Globe of Discord and Energy times 8. I think there was one for every Psychophant, because when you kill one of the Psychophants, that rotation went through. But anyways, maybe you get like 6 to to 8 chances. I think it's 8 at a global discord energy dropping. Sometimes when I did it, I'd get 3. Epic 2.0 orbs, supposed to be, one of the hardest things. Supposed to be a rite of passage, and you get your anguish flags, and you finally kill something in anguish, and you have a chance to loot it. Yeah, they did away with all that. You can get your Epic 2.0 for the most part without even stepping inside Citadel of Anguish, and I know some, like the Ranger Druid, actually had to go into Anguish, but you could get piggied in as long as you had the signets. 3 Epic 2.0s basically, and Epic 2.0 fights outside of Anguish, just buy the gear. You got pretty much some of the best gear in the game. Getting all the Anguish drops, the Anguish armor, people selling that stuff, and it makes doing the Epic 2.0s easy, especially for a box crew with just 12 characters. There was none of the fights I really had trouble with. Some of it required a little bit more coordination than others, but yeah, Epic 2.0s. And progress into Depths of Dark Hollow. You got the Council of 9, Blood Eye, Matrix Shira, all 6 to 12 boxable, and they're dropping some of the best gear in the game. And it's not only that they're dropping the best gear in the game, it's that it's a lot of gear. The random loot table is a lot of gear. You're getting Epic 2.5 pages from some of those events, and there's been something like that for every expansion. And so I was like, how do they fix that? Because I pointed out in my last video that it is good. More people are playing, more people are doing things on the weekly, and more people are farming. But when you really think about it, they are really just farming some of those events to get some of the best loot, and they're not actually exploring any of their content. They may only log on once a week just to do those 3 bosses, and then they're farming something else in between, but they're not really playing anymore. They're kind of just farming to sell loot. And even though people are more active and it's really cool that you can buy really cheap loot, it does make the game really trivial. Some of you that aren't playing on the random loot server because it's too much or you don't like it, like, what would you accept? What type of compromises can we make? Do we limit the amount of random loot? Do we do what I was saying, keep it on the same tier so you're not actually able to random loot into a higher table? Do we get rid of it altogether? Do we do things like remove lore? What kind of suggestions do you guys got that would make a Mischief type rule set work where you would feel like playing there? So that's the point of this video, how to fix loot on Mischief. Like I said, I do really enjoy the random tradable loot thing. I think that tradable loot should have always been a thing. I can definitely agree, and I can definitely see how there's too much loot, and that could be discouraging for people that actually like to play through the content and play the game. Let me know in the comments below. I'm excited to hear what you have to say, because I do think that they will make another random loot server, and I do think that they will pay attention to some of these comments, and I doubt my videos are going to be popular enough for them to pay attention to, but if more people start talking about it in places where it matters, who knows? Maybe we'll get another random loot server that's actually better, a little bit more challenging. So thanks for watching.
We got P99, we got TLP, we got private servers and tests that's free. Some of us pay, some of us don't, some of us play, some of us won't. Did you just break my mess? Did you just train me? Did you just miss a healing? Are you gonna rest me? And please, I need a sow, and please, I need a rest. Please, I need that sword, I'll take what you got.